Hello. Hello, very kind people. I am so happy that you're here. Thank you for being here. Today we are bejeweled and bedazzled. And I would like to share another issue of Psychology Today magazine with you. Now, it seems like I shared the first issue with you fairly recently. And that is because I receive this magazine every quarter. And last time, I think it was closer to the end of the quarter that I shared it with you. And this is one that I just recently received. Psychology. Psychology Today magazine. Now, as I said last time, there are lots of different contributors to this magazine each month, and so I can't fully endorse or say I agree with everything in this publication. But I did go through and find some things that I thought would be fun to share with you. I also love magazine ASMR myself from lots of different creators, so I hope that you enjoy this. The cover article that we'll be reading quite a few things from is 26 Keys to Thriving. How to flourish no matter what comes your way. Right at the beginning, the insights, bloom scrolling is good for you. There are days when the world feels cloudy and dark, and plans to get outside devolve into the loving embrace of a couch. On such days, the compulsion to doom scroll may be strong, but we can try something different. Bloom scrolling is the deliberate search for true stories of human kindness, images of natural beauty, and videos of baby animals. If doom scrolling narrows the soul, bloom scrolling gently reopens it. Research supports this approach. Brief experiences of awe encouraged by nature videos can lower stress, reduce rumination, and increase feelings of connection and meaning. It says, do not be confused, however. Helping human neighbors, stopping to smell a rose, and feeling the sunlight on your face work better than looking at the phone. But when the weather of your mind is dark and gloomy, bloom scrolling can help you access the feeling that comes with the first days of spring. So while it is very important to remain aware of all of the things going on in the world and to help and contribute in positive ways to the stressful things in the world, you've got to keep it in balance. You've got to remember how much goodness and beauty there is in the world. I myself, even just for seasonal depression symptoms, it's great to look up nature videos. There's a certain level of your brain where you can't tell the difference between a video and a real spatial physical experience. So what they call bloom scrolling could definitely be a mental and emotional aid. And this is a cute one. It says bird watching beyond the words. I have maybe 3 clients that really love bird watching, and it comes up in our therapy sessions. It's cute to see it here. How a popular hobby rewires your brain. 1. What the science says. Expert birders have a more compact brain structure. Regions that enhance observational skills are activated. Pathways to improve processing visual information are rewired. Lifelong learning and cognition. Brains are more youthful looking. The risk of Alzheimer's may be reduced by 38%. Dementia can be delayed for 5 years. And holistic wellness. Nature and movement improve brain health. Joining birding groups provides social connection. Stress is reduced and you are able to unplug. I'll have to share that with my clients. I'm sure that applies to many different hobbies as well. There's an article, A Ritual State of Mind. It talks about how important rituals are for human beings on different levels, psychological, emotional, social levels. I remember learning that in my anthropology classes years ago. And it also talks about how just common everyday things can be ritualized for a positive benefit. And here is our cover article, 26 Keys to Thriving. People want to optimize themselves every which way, and yet it is possible to thrive not by doing more faster, but by distinguishing signal from noise, from the power of pausing to the ability to ignore. We've culled 26 simple, actionable measures for gaining a sense of control and living a meaningful life. This one says, you don't need permission to thrive. People underestimate their freedom to act, even when no one is stopping them. We internalize the presence of gatekeepers so thoroughly that we stop testing doors to open. The need for permission is nothing but an illusion. It's one we enforce ourselves. Our time on this planet is short. The rules of society may be useful, but they are not binding laws on your curiosity. Seeking permission is optional, while the path to flourishing is open always. This one says, you are the data. Algorithms increasingly shape our world and our choices, making predictions based on statistical likelihood, past behavior, and expectations about the continuation of trends. AI is the least help in moments of crisis, creative decision-making, and deeply personal choices. When it comes to decisions about you, you are the data the answers are going to turn on. Your internal states, emotions, physical signals tell you things that data-driven reasoning can't. Intuition isn't mysticism. It's an evolved form of pattern recognition. You can sharpen it by making small decisions and limiting yourself to 30 seconds for making low-stakes choices. There's actually a lot in this issue pertaining to AI. It is a relevant topic in the field currently. My personal stance is that I don't care for it. I preferred the world without it. A little bit building on this one, this little blurb says, how to get beyond being stuck. Paradoxically, there's power in indecision. If you haven't decided, you haven't lost. The agonizing experience of weighing two options that are both appealing and costly, what scientists call approach avoidance conflict, is a hallmark of depression. What feels like a failure of willpower is actually a measurable physical event in the brain. The circuitry for weighing options is compromised. The system cannot generate enough neurological momentum. Chronic stress leaves the decision-making circuit prone to locking. Paradoxically, choosing not to decide, making that the deliberate plan, restarts the motivational engine. As Yogi Berra said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. The surprising power of a compliment. We consistently underestimate how good our compliments make others and us feel. Small acts of kindness not only spread happiness to givers and recipients, but ripple out, shaping the wider culture, making the world slightly warmer. Although people hesitate for fear of intruding or being misunderstood, a compliment is, in fact, a small act of rebellion against the invisibility many people feel. It is the gift of attention. The formula is simple. Notice, appreciate, share. Make it authentic, specific, concrete, quick, and respectful. I love that one. That one might be my favorite. And we have a quote by William Faulkner. Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. Never be afraid to raise your voice for honesty and truth and compassion against injustice and lying and greed. Look at that beauty. I think I mentioned when I'm done with these magazines myself, I pass them on to a client who uses them in their collage art. So I didn't mention that at the beginning. It slipped my mind. But that is a reason why I wanted to record this video earlier in the quarter, so I can pass this on to my client for their collage art. This says, go ahead, indulge that guilty pleasure. Most of us have one, although we typically hide it. It's not really guilt we feel, but closer to embarrassment. As we indulge, we simultaneously enjoy and judge ourselves because we are voluntarily engaging in an activity that violates our identity. That tension, enjoying something while being unable to justify it, is actually a sign of psychological flexibility, that our identity isn't overly rigid, and the guilt amplifies the pleasure. Again, it says, AI will never have a guilty pleasure. never have the ridiculous thrill of doing something completely pointless and loving every second of it. So protect it. The things that can't be justified are often the things that hold us together. A cherry on top. Don't chase mood. Build a life. People who are struggling with depression and focus only on symptoms can become trapped in a kind of bad 5G commercial. Am I feeling better yet? Am I there yet? Therapeutic change can then turn into a wrestling match with feelings or thoughts. But when people monitor the processes that produce or ameliorate their suffering and vitality, emotional openness, awareness, cognitive diffusion, self-kindness, values, committed action, avoidance, disconnection, something very different can happen. They are no longer just staring at distress. They are learning how their life works. Do not wait to feel good before doing what matters. And then there's a little quote from Coco Chanel. She says the most courageous act is still to think for yourself aloud. The most courageous act is still to think for yourself aloud. And right across the page, we have Winston Churchill. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. The mundane miracle of the reboot. Habits are difficult to change, not because we lack willpower, but because they've become embedded in our neural circuitry, grooves worn by repetition. Sleep deprivation, chronic stress, depression, and substance use all corrupt these circuits. Sometimes the most useful intervention is a systemic reboot, a period of rest, a change in environment, a behavioral pattern interrupted long enough for something new to take hold. There's a reason exercise, sleep hygiene, and changing your daily routine can have measurable effects on your mood. They interrupt circuits that have been running the same program on a loop. The mundane miracle of a reboot. In this little corner here, seeking success. Humility trumps narcissism. Many people see humility as a virtue, just not one that fuels success. But humility is not low self-esteem or the same as modesty. It is a lack of self-importance which allows people to see themselves accurately, recognize their limitations, seek help where they're lacking, be open to learning and growth, and attend to the needs of others. Humble people aren't doormats. They recognize they don't reside at the center of the universe. Research shows that humble leaders produce better organizational outcomes. Willing to seek help and feedback, they become highly effective. Here's one of many ways to practice humility. If you're used to helping others, try asking for help instead. Oh, I really love that one too. Something we talk about in complex trauma recovery as well is that humility is not the same as humiliation. There can be a lot of traumatic experiences of humiliation that people overcompensate for with narcissistic tendencies. So it's important to practice that genuine humility. It's okay to take feedback. It's okay to ask for help. This one says, measure your success in Mondays. We chase success, but overlook how we actually spend our days. We often choose the path that looks most successful from the outside, rather than one we can get excited about actually living day to day. Even if we mark our life journey with milestones and trophies that can be measured and displayed, most of our time traveling will be in the everyday steps we take along our way. Social media shows the trophies, not the weekday mornings that make up a life. Pay attention to the details. Your everyday life isn't a means to a few momentary milestones. Life is embraced through the ordinary days we spend living it. Be an active listener. Unleash your many selves. We humans naturally have multiple versions of ourselves that emerge across different roles and contexts, although we often feel pressure, especially in professional settings, to keep them separate. But life doesn't unfold in neat categories, and research shows that the ability to adapt behavior across roles makes people both more resilient and more creative. It lowers the risk of distress in stressful circumstances. Further, when your sense of self isn't concentrated into just one role, a setback in one domain does not threaten the whole self. In addition, creativity arises from the ability to draw connections between unrelated fields. Identity is layered and always evolving. The different parts of who you are resources to draw on. I love that perspective, and I've felt it and I've seen it play out so many times with clients where maybe they're killing it in their professional sphere of life and they feel so confident about the work that they do, but they're struggling in a friendship or in their role as a parent. We talk about resourcing that confident part of themselves, that facet of who they are, and bringing that into those other spheres, those other situations. So a very cool thing to consider. And this says, gain the pride of trying. If you're naturally cautious and yearn for a bit more daring, start with sensible, calculated risks. Look for risks in which the downside is no payoff, rather than harm or loss. For example, asking a question. If the answer isn't productive, you might waste a few minutes, but you could gain something important. Even if you get ignored or denied, that might not sting as much as you anticipate. When I try something small and it doesn't work, I'm often quite proud of myself for trying. When your identity needs an upgrade, we are storytelling animals, constantly spinning a narrative of our existence. And the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves can be helpful or not. Self-narratives that we are different, defective, or doomed to fail shape our experience. It's possible to change our self-stories. Asking yourself 3 questions can help you develop a more empowering way of making sense of yourself. 1. What evidence am I repeatedly highlighting, and what am I ignoring? 2. Which version of this story makes me more capable, compassionate, and alive? 3. What would a fairer, fuller interpretation look like? This last one that we'll read from this article says life is fast, love is slow. The most important thing you can do for your relationship is to slow down. Therapy boiled down, distilled into 2 words. Slow down. Whether we're talking, making love, or making dinner, slow down your life in general. We have increased the pressure on ourselves to do more faster, but that pace induces physiologic changes. Extra cortisol and adrenaline, our amygdala fires up, we become reactive and defensive. For the things we want, to know and be known, to care and receive caring, to have the shared experiences that knit us into couples and communities, we need to attend to our feelings and to notice the experiences of others. We need enough ease to welcome their requests rather than resent one more demand that life is making. Research shows that our brains are more active during the pauses in sounds. Pausing allows our brain to consider what is going on. The white space is what makes poetry on the page and in our lives. I hope that you enjoyed hearing some of the 26 keys to thriving from this issue of Psychology Today. And I actually realized this says July/August 2026, so maybe this comes out every 2 months. I'm paying more attention now than I have in the past, now that I've been sharing them with my client and sharing them with all of you. Oh, a fly just flew by. We have a little guest. I hope that they enjoyed listening to Psychology Today magazine as well. But please let me know, was there anything that we read today that stood out to you? Was there anything that you already know, that you already practice, that has personal meaning to you? Or maybe there was some new concept or research concept that we read about that you would be interested in learning more about. Please let me know. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me today. Please remember that we are always only human. And please take very good care of yourself.